Hello there, this is All 24 News live from Algiers. I'm Karim Fazakri and these are tonight's top stories. Tonight, Algeria slams UK support for Morocco's autonomy plan, Polisario vows to expose occupation abuses, and activists decry Freedom March crackdown. Details just ahead. Next up, growing backlash in Morocco over plans to elevate Zionist representation in the country. Coming up as well, in Gaza, hundreds killed at 8 centers in latest Zionist attacks. UN slams flawed aid system and groups demand immediate end to occupation control. We'll have full details on these developments shortly. Also in tonight's headlines, deadly bridge collapse in Russia kills 7. Moscow probes possible terror link as Ukraine strikes Russian bombers in major counteroffensive. Stay tuned, full details coming right up. Hello again and welcome back to the program. In our news tonight, Algeria is voicing regret over what it calls the United Kingdom's support for Morocco's controversial autonomy plan in the occupied Western Sahara. In a statement released Sunday, Algeria's foreign ministry clarified that while the UK may have referenced the plan, it did not recognize Morocco's claimed sovereignty over the territory. The ministry stressed that Britain's stance does not equate to support for what Algeria describes as the illegal occupation of Western Sahara.
Algeria has taken note of the United Kingdom's new position on the issue of Western Sahara. Algeria regrets that the UK has chosen to support Morocco's autonomy plan. At the same time, Algeria notes that the United Kingdom did not recognize Morocco's claimed sovereignty over Western Sahara, nor did it provide any support for such a claim. Therefore, it does not endorse the unlawful occupation of a territory that remains classified by international law as a non-self-governing territory.
On a similar note, the Polisario Front is ramping up its criticism of Morocco's treatment of Sahrawi detainees. In a statement on Sunday, the group denounced what it calls Morocco's repressive policies after authorities blocked the Freedom March from reaching Qnitra prison. The Polisario's representative in Spain, Abdullah Al-Arabi, says the move underscores Morocco's ongoing violations of Sahrawi rights in the occupied territories. He's urging international human rights groups to press for the unconditional release of all Sahrawi political prisoners. And in the same context, the Sahrawi National Human Rights Committee is condemning Morocco's move to block the Freedom March to Qnitra prison. In a statement on Sunday, the group also slammed Rabat's continued expulsion of international observers from the occupied Western Sahara. The Sahrawi National Human Rights Committee criticized both the European Commission and the Spanish government for what it called deafening silence in the face of repeated rights violations. It's now calling for a UN mechanism to monitor the situation and end the media and military blockade in the region.
The repressive Moroccan occupation continues expelling international observers to hide its abuses against the Sahrawi people. The Sahrawi Human Rights Committee stands with the International March, Mrs. Claude Mangin, and Sahrawi political prisoners, condemning the ban on their access to Qnitra prison. It denounces Morocco's ongoing policy, blocking observers and targeting Sahrawis demanding freedom and independence.
Berlin played host to an international symposium in solidarity with Sahrawi political prisoners held in Moroccan jails. Organized by the Daughters of Sagia al-Hamra and Rio de Oro Association, alongside Germany's International League for Human Rights, the event drew rights advocates, researchers, and global organizations. Attendees shed light on the worsening human rights conditions in occupied Western Sahara and shared first-hand testimonies from the families of detainees, particularly those of the academic group. In different news, Algeria and India are reaffirming their strong bilateral ties. On Sunday, Algerian Secretary of State for African Affairs Selma Bakhta met with Indian lawmaker and Special Envoy P.J. Panda, who's heading a parliamentary delegation on a 4-day visit to Algeria. According to the Algerian Foreign Ministry, both sides discussed boosting political dialogue and cooperation across key sectors, while also exchanging views on pressing regional and global issues. In other regional development, the United States is welcoming continued coordination between Algeria, Tunisia, and Egypt aimed at restoring stability in Libya. In a post on X, the U.S. Embassy in Cairo urged all Libyan parties to prevent violence, protect civilians, and return to dialogue. This follows a tripartite meeting in Cairo and separate talks in Tripoli between Libya's Minister of State, Walid El-Lafi, and the Algerian and Tunisian ambassadors. El-Lafi praised regional efforts, reaffirming Libya's commitment to empowering state institutions and dismantling armed groups operating outside official structures. For its part, Human Rights Watch is sounding the alarm over the risk of renewed violence in Libya's capital, Tripoli. Speaking to Germany's DW, Hanan Salah, Associate Director for the MENA region, warned that the latest clashes highlight the city's fragile and volatile security environment. The organization is urging all parties to exercise restraint and prioritize civilian safety as tensions continue to simmer in the Libyan capital.
The sheer recklessness of the conflict documented by Human Rights Watch in the heart of civilian areas demonstrates these armed groups' blatant disregard for the lives and livelihoods of the civilians. The risk of renewed fighting and harm to civilians remains very real as long as the fundamental issues related to the operation of militias and the lack of accountability are not addressed.
Elsewhere in Africa now, tensions are mounting in Morocco amid preparations to open a Zionist embassy in the country. The Moroccan Observatory Against Normalization has denounced the move, calling it a dangerous escalation as genocide continues in Gaza. Protests erupted Saturday night in several cities, with demonstrators condemning Rabat's normalizations of ties with the entity. Critiques accuse the government of silence in the face of Zionist military operations and of deepening security and diplomatic ties despite the widespread public opposition.
They moved to upgrade the Zionist representation to a full embassy at a time when the Palestinian people are being massacred and Gaza and the West Bank are being destroyed, while the sanctity of our Prophet's mosque is being violated, is nothing but the culmination of a long path of submission. What is even more dangerous is that this infiltration now speaks our language, claims our identity, and defends itself in forums under a fake national image and in the name of human rights.
Moving on to the Gaza file now, in yet another tragedy, Zionist strikes on Sunday targeted displaced Palestinians gathered near 8 distribution points in Rafah and central Gaza. According to Gaza's health ministry, at least 49 people were killed and over 300 wounded, many with gunshot wounds to the head and chest. The attacks hit areas where civilians had assembled for food and relief, prompting outrage across the region and the entire world. More on this development with Zahra Farjani now.
Once again, funeral processions move solemnly through Gaza's devastated streets, where cries of grief rise louder than ever. This morning, thousands of mourning Palestinians carried the bodies of loved ones killed as they searched only for food.
Let them stop these massacres, stop this genocide. They're killing us, killing all of us together, and let us get rid of this life instead of getting hurt for this and that. Our beloved ones are dying. Enough. Who is left? Nobody's left. We cannot resist anymore at all, I swear.
What were meant to be centers of relief have turned into scenes of carnage. Just yesterday, as a starving crowd gathered in desperation, bullets tore through the air. Dozens were killed, over 100 injured. Gaza's streets remain stained with blood.
He went to get his livelihood. He left home at 11 o'clock, sleeping near the flag there. He went to get his food. They shot him. He was not carrying weapons or knives or anything. He went to get food for his children. He has 8 family members, and with him and his wife they are 10. This is unfair. What they are doing is so unfair. We heard aid was being distributed, so we moved toward Al Alam roundabout near the coast. Suddenly heavy gunfire broke out. Drones flew and announced there was no aid today. Then at 6 p.m. they started shooting randomly at people. There were so many martyrs, so many wounded. We lay flat on the ground for nearly 2 hours. If you lifted your head, they shot at you.
After 80 days of blockade, a militarized aid system replaces UN agencies, but Palestinians say it is a trap.
The entire Palestinian people are dying, and half of them will die because of this so-called humanitarian aid. Are we dogs to you? Is that what you see? Is that how you see us? Shame on you. Deliver the aid through UNRWA. What's happening to these people is disgraceful.
Health officials say at least 49 killed, over 300 injured in the latest massacres. Most were shot in the head or chest. Calls for a ceasefire grow louder, but in Gaza, where even food lines become death traps, burying the dead has become a daily ritual, with no time left for mourning and no page to turn.
And in reaction to this development, Hamas responded Sunday to the deadly attack near 8 centers in Rafah, accusing the Zionist forces of using humanitarian sites as traps to target vulnerable civilians. The group condemned what it called heinous killing and abuse, describing the massacre as evidence of the occupation's criminal intent. Hamas called on the United Nations and the international community to take urgent action, demanding the immediate opening of crossings and unimpeded aid delivery through UN channels. With reaction still, the government media office in Gaza has also condemned Sunday's deadly attack on civilians gathered at aid distribution points south of Rafah. In a statement, they described the massacre as clear evidence of systematic plan of genocide through starvation by Zionist forces. The office accused the occupation of using humanitarian aid as a tool to manipulate and control the civilian population amid the ongoing genocidal war.
The occupation is committing a new massacre against civilians and humanitarian aid sites, using aid as a weapon to starve and control them. This crime shows a deliberate plan of genocide by starvation. We urge the UN and Security Council to act immediately, open crossings without restrictions, and form an independent international committee to investigate these massacres.
For its part, the United Nations Humanitarian Office has raised serious concerns about the new aid distribution system in Gaza. In a statement on Sunday, OCHA warned that the system fails to meet the population's needs, jeopardizes their safety, and undermines their dignity. Since March 18th, over 630,000 people have been displaced again. The agency highlighted a particularly dire situation for nearly 700,000 women and girls who face severe risks to their health, protection, and human rights. Meanwhile, the Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor has sharply criticized the US-backed aid distribution system in Gaza. In a statement on Sunday, the group accused the mechanism of colluding with the Zionist entity forces by gathering displaced Palestinians in so-called safe zones, only for them to be targeted by drone strikes and shelling. The Monitor called on the international community to act immediately to stop what it described as an inhumane operation, putting civilians in grave danger.
The Israeli occupation forces, in coordination with an American organization they established, directed Palestinians to gather at an aid distribution point and instructed them to wait, only to later open fire on them. Additionally, personnel from the American security company deployed tear gas canisters against the starving crowd. The American organization provides only limited quantities of aid parcels while directing tens of thousands of Palestinians to a perilous distribution site, where Israeli forces target them with live ammunition and shelling. Those who survive the journey and reach the location are often met with an extremely limited supply of aid, triggering desperate struggles among the crowd to secure basic necessities.
Similarly, the head of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees has condemned the new aid distribution system in Gaza as a deadly trap. Philip Lazzarini shared on X that medical teams in Gaza reported high casualties among starving civilians during Sunday's aid deliveries. He called for urgent, safe, and widespread humanitarian access, stressing that effective aid can only be ensured through trusted UN bodies like UNRWA. In a heartbreaking tragedy, Dr. Hamdi Najjar was killed Sunday after occupation forces shelled his home south of Khan Yunis. He joins then his 9 children who were martyred in the same attack. His wife, pediatrician Ala Najjar, received the bodies of their 9 children along with 2 critically injured children, including their 10th son. The family's loss has deeply shocked the Gaza community and humanitarian observers worldwide.
He was a doctor who treated anyone, Muslim or Christian, with compassion, true humanitarian, committed to his oath before God to serve with integrity. He was a doctor and the father of 9 martyrs.
And finally, in this file, as the world marked International Children's Day, many Palestinian children, especially in Gaza, are bearing the devastating toll of a genocidal war that denies them their innocence and future. More details with Salman Asib now.
Behind the proud smiles at this girl's jewelry workshop lies a burden too heavy for childhood. In Gaza, 12-year-old Dima Abdelhadi's eyes reflect a reality no child should endure.
My name is Dima Abdelhadi. I'm from Beit Hanun City, 12 years old, in 6th grade. Before the war, we used to wake up at 6 a.m. and go to school, me and my siblings. We would go there, have breakfast, and go to the playgrounds to play, with friends and my siblings. Now, the situation is hard. We can't go out. Everywhere is dangerous. Bombing is everywhere, and we could get hurt.
Horror shattered Dima's world, with her 6 sisters, including a widow, raising 2 orphans. Her childhood is fear. At 12, terror and nightmares are her constant companions.
We don't like the night. The night comes heavy with sorrow. The sound of bombing, the ambulances, the missiles and rockets. We're afraid of the night. We used to sleep on one mattress. Me and my sisters are of fear. I wish for my daughters to live in peace and for the war to end. I want them to have a place in society and to continue their education. Education is the most important thing. Without it, society and life cannot thrive. I dream of seeing my daughters educated, one in journalism, another in nursing, etc.
UN humanitarian workers describe the situation in Gaza under siege from airstrikes, facing malnutrition, displacement, and a breakdown of order as catastrophic and the worst since October 7, 2023. Despite the brutality of the Zionist genocide, it will never erase the smiles of Gaza's children, especially on this International Children's Day.
Moving on to other topical news, Russian authorities reported a tragic incident on Sunday morning in the Bryansk region near the Ukrainian border, where at least 7 people were killed and 69 others injured, including children. The tragedy followed the collapse of a road bridge, causing a train derailment, Russian investigators confirmed the bridge collapse resulted from 2 bombings, which they have classified as terrorist attacks. Authorities are conducting urgent investigations to determine the full circumstances of the incident. And on the ground, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced that it shut down 100 Ukrainian drones targeting Russian territories, alongside intercepting 7 American-made guided bombs. Within just 24 hours, that is. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Air Force reported fending off Russia's largest drone assault since the war began, downing 382 out of 472 drones launched overnight. Russia claimed a missile strike destroyed a Ukrainian drone launch site in Kharkiv, hitting multiple targets, including 6 launch pads and about 30 drones. Meanwhile, a Russian missile strike hit a Ukrainian army training site on Sunday, killing at least 12 soldiers and injuring more than 60 others. The Ukrainian military confirmed the attack, describing it as a targeted strike on their training unit. Ukraine announced on Sunday that it carried out a large-scale operation targeting Russian military aircraft deep inside Russian territory. According to AFP, citing a Ukrainian security source, Kiev struck an airbase in the Irkutsk region of eastern Siberia, thousands of kilometers from the front lines. The attack affected more than 40 Russian aircraft, marking a significant escalation in the conflict. Moving on to other African news now. Sudan's newly appointed transitional prime minister, Kemal Idris, called on countries supporting the rapid support forces to stop what he described as criminal operations. In his first public address since being sworn in, Idris emphasized strengthening Sudan's foreign relations and prioritizing national security. He vowed to restore state authority and end ongoing rebellion threatening the country's stability.
Sudanese national security and state authority are completely upheld by eliminating the rebellion and all forms of insurgent militias, urging countries that support these militias to completely cease these criminal operations and targeting countries that plan, finance, and cooperate in their execution.
And on the same occasion, Sudan's transitional Prime Minister Kemal Idris also vowed to maintain neutrality by keeping an equal distance from all political parties. In his first address since taking office, he stressed inclusivity, promising that no group would be excluded from the national dialogue.
I fully realize the magnitude of the responsibility placed on my shoulders, and I pledge to work to serve the nation and the Sudanese people with the utmost sincerity and dedication.
And finally, it's time to catch up on other news stories making headlines with Yasin Rikti in the News in Brief.
Two Lebanese were killed and one injured in Zionist airstrikes in southern Lebanon. One strike targeted a motorcycle in Arnoul al-Shakif, Nabatea Governorate, and another hit a car in Beit Lif. The Lebanese national news agency confirmed the attacks near the border with the occupied Palestine. Opposition leaders in Côte d'Ivoire have called for inclusive political dialogue ahead of October's presidential elections. During a rally in Abidjan, they denounced the exclusion of key figures, demanding reforms to the Independent Electoral Commission and the Electoral Register. Former Prime Minister Pascal Affi-N'Guessan criticized the government's exclusionary tactics. Polish voters headed to the polls Sunday for the second round of the presidential election. Pro-EU Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowicz faces nationalist historian Karol Nawrocki, backed by the ruling Law and Justice Party. Though Poland is a parliamentary system, the presidency holds significant power, including veto authority and foreign policy influence. Celebrations in Paris following PSG's Champions League win turned violent. French police used tear gas to disperse crowds, leading to 2 deaths, over 192 injuries and 500 arrests. More than 5,000 security personnel were deployed as the city descended into chaos during what was meant to be a historic night.
And with this, we wrap up our news program for tonight. For more updates, you can always visit our social media platforms as well as our website. I'm Karim Zachary on behalf of all 24 News team. Thank you for tuning in to our channel. Until next time, have a good one.